You're watching Updates at Noon. I'm Brendan Lipol. The situation of congestions in flood relief centres, PPS, due to flood disasters can carry the risk of transmission of COVID-19 infections among flood victims and staff. Health Director General Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said to date, 18 PPS had been opened in 7 districts, accommodating a total of 1,267 victims from 303 families. Therefore, Dr. Noor Hisham said COVID-19 prevention measures in PPS should be practiced and given attention by all occupants and agencies responsible for the management and welfare of victims in PPS. In a statement, he said occupants and staff at PPS were also advised to practice the 3W: wash, wear, and warn, and avoid the 3C, namely crowded and narrow areas and chatting at close range at all the time, other than practicing social distancing and the ethics for coughing and sneezing. The Malaysian Meteorological Department had stated that the country was experiencing humid weather from time to time and it was expected to continue until the end of July. Flash floods are expected to occur in several areas in the states of Johor, Pahang, Selangor and Melaka, causing PPS to be open to house flood victims in the areas affected. In this regard, Dr. Noor Hisham said the Health Ministry had developed a prevention and management guide for COVID-19 in PPS, starting from the process of transferring victims to PPS until the process after completion of placement. Among the 11 steps proposed in the guide, he said, is that all PPS should put a sign to maintain physical distance and provide soap and water or disinfectant liquid, as well as regular sanitation of common areas. The government has so far brought home 23,955 Malaysians stranded in 82 countries due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Hishammuddin Tun Hussein said stranded Malaysians were brought home through various means and with the help of various parties, including the private sector as well as friends from other countries. The minister explained there were still 317 Malaysians who are still stranded in 37 countries, adding 191 were categorized as being in a critical situation.
Jumlah yang kita anggap masih kritikal dan terkandas berjumlah 191, dan daripada 191 tu 189 melibatkan rakyat kita daripada golongan jemaah tabligh di India, dan ada perkembangan terkini berhubung kait dengan mereka ini. Ada yang telah pun didakwa di mahkamah, dah dijatuhkan hukuman, ada yang dah didakwa tetapi masih belum melalui proses kehakiman mereka, dan ada lagi yang masih dalam kuarantin dan juga belum didakwa di mahkamah. Dan maklumat terkini saya akan edarkan secara bertulis, dan ini merupakan perkembangan yang agak positif.
Datuk Seri Hishammuddin said the government had also identified 10,159 Malaysians who may potentially be stranded overseas, of whom 9,270 are final year students. Now, on the decision to reopen Malaysia-Singapore borders for selected groups beginning the 10th of August, Datuk Seri Hishammuddin said the government will look at its capabilities in handling it and the compliance level with the Standard Operating Procedure (SOP) set. He said this was important before lifting further restrictions to the third category, namely about 200,000 Malaysians and Singaporeans who commute daily for work.
Jumlahnya agak besar, ratusan ribu, dan ia banyak bergantung kepada kemampuan kita untuk menguji COVID. Dan saya percaya bahawa kalau SOP kita untuk kategori pertama dan kedua ni berjalan dengan lancar, then it is positive for us to start negotiating on the third category of Malaysians and Singaporeans moving back and forth. And of course, the final category is the opening of our borders fully. So kita ada plan, kita ada perancangan supaya ianya berjalan dengan berperingkat-peringkat.
Prior to this, in a joint statement, both countries announced they have agreed to implement the Reciprocal Green Lane (RGL) and Periodic Commuting Arrangement (PCA) to address the needs of different groups of cross-border travellers between both countries. The statement said eligible travellers for both schemes will have to abide by the prevailing COVID-19 prevention and public health measures mutually agreed upon by both countries, which include undergoing polymerase chain reaction (PCR) swab tests. The security forces guarding the country's waters will be operating more efficiently following the upgrading of the Malaysian Maritime Sea Surveillance System, SWASLA, which is expected to be completed this year. Marine Police Force PPM Commander SAC Muhammad Yusof Muhammad said that the government has approved an allocation of more than 100 million ringgit to upgrade the radar system.
Jangan kapal bentuk nama baik radar ni untuk angle dia tu dia lebih wider lagi untuk menyesang Waimar apabila dua bot dengan bot kecil dan sebagainya.
The radar system is jointly used by PPM, Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency and the Royal Malaysian Navy. So far, SAC Muhammad Yusof said the radar system had been installed in several locations, including Langkawi, Kedah, Lumut Perak and Tanjung Pengalih, Johor. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, will not reopen all cases involving the previous governments unless there are new leads. Its investigation director, Dato' Nur Azlan Muhammad Razali, said that if any old cases were to be reopened, they must be based on new and concrete evidence. Dato' Nur Azlan was asked to comment on whether MACC would reopen investigations into cases involving the previous government.
Kita tidak akan membuka kes-kes terdahulu, contohnya dalam kes-kes yang melibatkan kerajaan terdahulu, kan? hanya kerana kita nak membukanya semula, tidak. Apa-apa kes, kalaupun ianya akan dibuka semula, kan, adalah berdasarkan kepada kita mendapat maklumat ataupun bukti baru yang membolehkan kita meneruskan siasatan. Ya. Tapi itu kita akan buat. Itu normal. Tak kira kerajaan baru ke kerajaan lama ke apa ke. Sebelum dulu pun kita dah buat begitu.
On another note, Dato' Nur Azlan said the public sector recorded a higher number of bribery cases as compared to the private sector, especially involving the enforcement and procurement divisions. He said of the total number of 1,496 arrests from June 2019 until June this year, 702 or 46.9% were civil servants detained for various corruption offences. The concern for one another and unity shown by the people during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country should be continued to create a more peaceful and harmonious Malaysia. Deputy Communications and Multimedia Minister Dato' Zahidi Zainul Abidin said such good behaviour and values should not cease following the crisis, but instead become the ethos of every Malaysian. Dato' Zahidi also called on the people to appreciate and practice all 5 principles of the Rukun Negara. Meanwhile, on the government's preparations for the National Day celebration on the 31st of August, he said this year's celebration would be different, with new normal practices. Therefore, he said various programs, especially involving the mass media, had been designed to invigorate the spirit of patriotism during the National Month celebration, even though the country was still in the midst of curbing the spread of COVID-19.
So kita adakan program-program, di antaranya kita buat sambutan ulang tahun ke-50 Rukun Negara bermula dengan 9 Julai yang lepas lah. Kan, lepas tu pelancaran Bulan Kebangsaan dan kempen Jalur Gemilang pada 28 Julai. Itu kita buat. Sambutan Hari Kebangsaan 2020 pada 31 Ogos. Sambutan Hari Malaysia 2020 pada 16 September. Di antara program-program kita yang lain adalah kita buat pertandingan pidato, pidangan cerpen, kibar jalur gemilang dan macam-macam program yang kita buat supaya semangat patriotisme, semangat kebangsaan itu terus kita kekalkan.
Dato' Zahiri was met after appearing as a panelist on the Bicara Politekonomi program aired on TV1 last night. We are watching updates at noon. The country's tourism sector is estimated to suffer losses amounting to 45 billion ringgit this year as a result of the closure of the country's borders due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Tourism, Arts and Culture Minister Dato' Sri Nancy Shukri said that as of the total, the international tourism segment was projected to suffer losses of more than 1 billion ringgit, while the rest was from the domestic segment.
Berdasarkan statistik MOTEK bagi tempoh Januari hingga Mac 2020, perbelanjaan pelancong antarabangsa merekodkan penurunan sebanyak 41.5% daripada 21.4 bilion ringgit pada 2019 kepada 12.5 bilion ringgit. Jumlah kerugian ini termasuklah kehilangan pekerjaan, punca pendapatan, ekoran aktiviti perniagaan yang tidak boleh dijalankan, pemotongan gaji serta pembatalan tempahan produk pelancongan serta hotel dan pakej pelancongan.
Speaking at Dewan Rakyat, Dato' Sri Nancy said the ministry had expected the tourism sector would be in the recovery phase from the second quarter of this year, driven by domestic tourism after the state borders were open. She also said that once the state borders were open, hotels had begun to record high occupancy rate of up to 75%, proving that the domestic tourism segment was back in full swing. The tourism sector is the third biggest contributor to the Malaysia's gross domestic product, GDP, growth, after manufacturing and commodities at 86.14 billion ringgit. The government will formulate various new strategies and methods in an effort to eradicate poverty among the people in line with the current circumstances. Federal Territories Minister Tan Sri Anwar Musa said the move included efforts to formulate appropriate policies and programs through the 12 Malaysia Plan, as well as the annual budget to be tabled following the revision of the poverty line income limit from 980 ringgit to 2,208 ringgit.
Kita mencabar diri kita sendiri sebagai kerajaan. Kalau kita nak ambil jalan selamat, kita stick to the figure, then the number of the target group will be smaller. But now kita voluntarily, kita review dia punya NPL ataupun National Poverty Lines, meaning kerajaan akan mengambil tanggungjawab yang lebih besar untuk mengadakan program pembasmian kemiskinan yang melibatkan jumlah keluarga yang lebih ramai.
In this regard, the minister said the government would identify people from the poor families who truly qualify to be assisted. Tan Sri Anwar was met after handing over offer letters to 141 daily part-time workers, PSH, at the Kuala Lumpur City Hall, DBKL. The offer letters to the PSH was part of efforts to fill up 500 positions in various departments in DBKL. Pelaburan Mara Berhad's PMB wholly owned subsidiary PMB Investment Berhad is confident of achieving 2 billion ringgit in assets under management AUM by end of 2020. PMB Investment Chief Executive Officer Najmi Mohamad said the group, which is currently managing 16 funds, was set to launch a new milestone fund with unique features by year end on approval from the Securities Commission. Najmi said PMB Investment was also looking into an exchange-traded fund, ETF, to be listed in the US by the first quarter of next year. PMB Investment, he said, was also gearing its marketing effort to attract more retail buyers by giving extensive training to address investors' issues personally and assist potential investors to map risk tolerance to its various funds. He said this in a media conference on PMB Investment's 5 outstanding funds in Kuala Lumpur. The group's top 5 funds, PMB Shariah ASEAN Stars Equity USD, PMB Shariah Growth Fund, PMB Shariah Small Cap Fund, PMB Dana Mutiara and PMB Shariah Index provided returns ranging from 9% to 30%. That's it from us this afternoon. In our top story, George Floyd's family sues City of Minneapolis in wrongful death lawsuit. Don't forget to tune in to news at 10 this evening on the Berita RTM News channel on My Freeviews channel 123. You can also stream MyClick saluran Berita RTM. Till then, I'm Brenda Lipol. Thanks for watching.